So the case starts with these two guys driving to the hospital. One's been shot in the dick, according to him, as he's seen on body-worn camera riding around in the emergency room. And the cousin's version of how he got shot was just wild, right? Because he's maintaining that he's just sitting in the car the whole time, that this bullet magically goes through the car door and through the car seat, which the medical records show that the bullet went into his buttock and then out through the penis. So he never knew what the trajectory was.
Welcome to Another Not Guilty. I'm David Moore, here along with my fellow public defenders, presenting to you the untold stories of the criminal justice system.
Objection! That assumes there's justice in the system, which there ain't. I prefer calling it the American criminal system.
These stories are about the not guilties public defenders get on a daily basis.
In an unjust criminal system.
With the deck stacked against us.
Whoa, another not guilty.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Another Not Guilty. I am Dallas Gutman. I'm a public defender in Cincinnati, Ohio.
I'm Rachel McKay. I'm a public defender with Dallas. And today we are joined by two phenomenal guests out of Jacksonville, Florida. We have Troy and Deana. And it's just a great not guilty. And we're really excited to get into it. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves a little bit?
Okay, my name's Troy. I work as a public defender in felony court in Jacksonville, Florida. Been working here for about going on 4 years and just really love it.
I'm Deana. I've been a public defender for 7 years now. Worked a little bit in Jacksonville as well as Tallahassee.
You know, it's freezing here in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was talking to Troy before we started about how jealous I am that it's probably nice out there, but it sounds like it's chilly and raining, so...
Yeah, today's not the best day. It's pretty stormy right now, like mid-50s. It's an indoor day for sure.
It's a great day to record a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll keep it going as long as we can. It's going to be an 8-hour episode.
That's right. It's going to be nice. It's going to be a beach day when you guys are done with this.
No, we have brunch plans later.
Not anymore, Troy. Lock in.
All right, so let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about what your client was charged with.
So Terrell was charged with 2 counts of attempted murder. And in Florida, we have what's called a 10-20 life law. So there's certain charges that if a gun is involved, then it would carry a 10-year minimum mandatory, and that's day for day with no gain time. If the gun is discharged, it's 20 years day for day. And then if there's an injury, then it's 25 years day for day. So one of the complaining witnesses was shot, and so that was a 25-year minimum mandatory. And then the other one was just a 20-year minimum mandatory. So his exposure was 25 to life.
Okay, and those days wouldn't stack, or would they if he was convicted?
So the law just changed now for enumerated felonies that qualify as 10-20 life. They would stack. They'd have to be run consecutive. At this time, the judge had the discretion to run them concurrent. All
right, so tell us a little bit about the state's theory then.
You know, it changed during trial, I think. But
of course.
Originally, it was like Grindr Date Gone Bad kind of thing.
Grindr Date Gone Bad?
Yeah, that sounds like the title of this episode. That's good.
Yeah.
So the case starts with these two guys driving to the hospital. One's been shot in the dick, according to him, as he's seen on body-worn camera riding around in the emergency room. There just so happened to be an officer there, so he picks up the investigation, and the guy that was shot, we'll call him cousin. He's allegedly the cousin of the date that Terrell was meeting. And so the story goes that these guys go to a local bar. Date says that Terrell is flirting with his cousin, and the cousin doesn't like that, so they decide to end the date and go take him directly from the bar to his house, where an argument starts in the vehicle, and then it turns into an altercation. The cousin says that he tries to break up this altercation inside the vehicle. They come to a stop outside of a park or inside of a park across from Terrell's house. The date and Terrell get out of the car. It's a fist fight that turns into a gunfight, and then bullets go flying, and cousin somehow gets struck, and then Terrell runs off, and then they drive to the hospital. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
And so these people originally met that same day on a dating app, basically Grindr.
Well, they met originally. The date and Terrell met, I think, on Scruff, and then they moved it over to Instagram, and then they exchanged phone numbers. So they'd been texting maybe a couple of months before they actually decided to meet up on this particular night. This was in November of 2023. So yeah, it started on a dating platform, and then just kept it casual on Instagram, I guess.
But the first day that they meet up is when all this happens.
Correct.
Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah.
This feels more like a third date situation to me, but everyone has their own timeline, you know?
Yeah.
Because who brings their cousin on the first date, you know? It's definitely third date.
Who brings their cousin on the first date?
Hey, if I'm there, my cousin's there. So, okay. So on that first date is client, the person client's on a date with, and cousin. Cousin becomes kind of like it's questionable whether or not client's flirting with cousin. That's why other party gets mad. Then they're all in the car together. There's some sort of physical altercation. At some point, gun goes off, hitting cousin.
Correct.
Okay.
That's basically what the state's theory is.
Okay, then they go to the hospital, and then charges are filed, basically.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of follow-up after that. The detectives that were assigned from the Robbery Violent Crimes Unit went and met with the cousin, who was transported to a different hospital. And so interviews the cousin. Cousin gives his version of events, which is a little bit different than what the date said. And then he goes and meets with the date, gets his version of events. They are able to figure out where client lives based on where this altercation happened. And so they go get him out of bed at like 4 o'clock in the morning, bring him down to Police Memorial Building, where they interview him. He doesn't invoke right away. He initially denies knowing either of these two guys, and he denies being at the bar that they were at. And then when he's confronted with, "We know that you were there, and we know that you know this person," that's when he decides to invoke. Yeah, so not great for the defense to start off with.
I guess better than an admission, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, better to, I guess, kind of deny some glaring facts than to just send it.
I don't know. Sometimes it's all bad. You're just like,
that's
why?
his job. We're like, well, I guess it could have been worse.
So he was arrested that day?
He was arrested that day.
So how does the case kind of progress from there? Do you meet him right away, or how does it work in your jurisdiction?
So the case ended up getting transferred to a different division. Jacksonville decided to start what we're calling GVOC court, GVOC, Gun Violent Offender Court, which kind of belies the presumption of innocence, I guess. But it got transferred to that division.
Wait, these court names. I have to pause every time. Gun Violence Offender Court.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's like criminal of criminals crime.
Definitely guilty, scary criminal court.
Yeah.
Worst of the worst, lock them up court.
Proved it beyond a reasonable doubt at arraignment court.
Yeah. So all the cases in that court carry these 20 or 25 year minimum mandatories. So it's pretty intense.
Okay, so he's in GVOC.
I was the third attorney on his case. So a lot of the preliminary investigation had already occurred.
Why is that?
Once it got transferred from the one division to GVOC, then there was a new attorney on it. And then that attorney ended up cycling out of the division, and I was cycling in, so then landed in my lap. And it was set for trial when I got it. So first time I met him was at a pretrial conference, and then the next court event was going to be his final pretrial. And then that first time, he actually had a low bond for what he was charged with. So he was out, which made it really difficult for him, right? Because he's been out since,
Right.
It was 2 years before he went to trial. And then when that trial date started, getting closer and closer, he's starting to freak out.
Yeah, the anxiety ramps up. What was his bond?
It was 100 on the attempted murder, and then they charged him with aggravated assault for the shooting for the guy that didn't get shot, and then they arrested him on that charge, and then they also added a alter and destroying evidence charge because they said that he hid his clothing and the gun, and I think there was a battery too. So total is like 145,000, I think.
And also,
Okay.
I think it's important to note that he was at the time in the National Guard, right? And
Correct.
he had no criminal record. And he actually got, I don't know if you call it discharged, or that he had to essentially give up his position during the pendency of the case.
All right. So he's out, and he's been out for about 2 years when the case is about to go to trial and when he meets you, right?
Correct. So
Okay.
we set up a meeting for him to come to the office, which he shows up with his mom. And so I met with her and him for a little bit and then kicked her out. And then I just asked him to tell me the story. And I had done I'd reviewed the discovery at this point. I'd looked at the body worn cameras and, read all the reports. And I had noticed some things that were a little bit peculiar in the back seat of the car where he was supposedly sitting during this altercation. There's a marijuana pipe and some weed. There's a bottle of lube, and there's a bullet in the back seat. So those were things that I was kind of like, yo, what's going on here? I mean, bottle of lube out, looks like it's going to be a party, right? So when he's telling me his story, I could tell that he was kind of being a little cagey or hedging. So finally I was like, yo, Terrell, like, I see the bottle of lube back there. I see the weed. There's something else going on here, bro. Like, I'm gay, you're gay. Just tell me what happened, right? And he's like, oh my God, okay. Now he feels like he can open up to me.
Okay, so you were able to
Interesting.
kind of connect with him on that level because it is kind of I don't know, for me at least, I don't necessarily tell my clients personal things about me. I mean, sometimes I do if I think it's going to be helpful, but I don't know. Typically it's not. I'm not like worried about them knowing stuff about me, but just typically it's not helpful or relevant or they don't care,
Yeah,
So,
same.
so that is kind of nice when you're able to be like, listen, like, I get it on some level. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Did it just end up, I mean, I don't know, you were just randomly assigned the case, right? So it just ended up that he got you as an attorney?
Just ended up that way. Yeah.
I love when that kind of stuff happens.
And he responded to that, like that changed his energy, the way he
It
talked to
did.
you.
It did. He totally opened up to me. He told me the whole story, how the whole night started and progressed and ended.
So
So
what was his version of events?
yeah, so he tells me that the date was going to pick him up at this park that's across the street from where he lives, and that's because client doesn't bring guys over to his house. He lives with his parents at this point. They go back to Date's house. Date wants to start pounding tequila, and client's like, no. And then they start talking. Date tells him that he was discharged from the military for getting into a fight with somebody when he was overseas. So that'll become important later.
A little 404B action or something.
Now, at some point, Date starts getting a phone call from his cousin. And cousin's like, yo, come over to my house. It turns out he lives right around the corner. And so client doesn't want to go to cousin's house. He's, on a date with this guy. But the cousin keeps calling. And so finally he's just like, okay, sure, we'll go over there. And one of the things that I'm leaving out that was talked about is the date was they were going to go to this particular club, and the date was also going to meet another couple that were potentially going to take him in as a third, like a swinger type situation.
Oh, and
so,
he told your client that?
Yeah. And
Is your
so
client like, what the hell? This is like the worst first date I've ever been on in my life.
For
We're just like
sure.
running errands for you. Like, what do you want to pick up your laundry next? Like,
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, I don't know if I'm really feeling this at this point. So, well, he's along for the ride. So yeah. So yeah, they make it over to cousin's house, and there's already some drinking going on over there, but everything's chill. Client remembers talking with the cousin, and they're kind of vibing. And at this point, Date's like starting to kind of give him the side eye, like, "Why are you vibing with my cousin?" type thing. At some point, they decide that they're going to leave and go to this club. So the three men get in the car. Date's driving, cousin's in the front seat, the client's in the back seat. They make another pit stop at a store where cousin gets a couple of malt beverages, is what client described them as, and basically chugs them on the way to the bar, smoking weed as well. So they get to the club.
So this guy's getting good and lit, right? Like
he's getting lit.
Yeah.
Everybody is, yeah.
Everybody
he's getting
is.
lit. Yeah,
Yeah, when you add it all up, it's getting blurry.
Yeah.
A couple more shots of tequila had happened by this point, so
that'll do it.
Yeah, so they get to the club, and cousin gets out of the car and immediately just pukes everywhere. Not a great start to the night.
No. They're not even in the club yet.
Not yet. So Date's like, yo, you okay, man? He's like, rubbing his back and like making sure that he's okay. And now Date's like, leave him alone. Why are you spending so much time on him? And like,
oh, so wait, so client was consoling cousin.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, Date didn't like that.
Date got jealous. Even though Date said, hey, we're going to meet these people that I might hook up with later.
Yeah,
for
but
real,
just
right?
Not you.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that the Date had told the police, and which was in the report, was that at the club, client had like run his fingers through the cousin's hair rather, and the cousin was like, leave me alone, get away from me. So according to the Date, that's kind of when he decided to end things. According to client, there was no particular reason why they decided to leave the bar. It was getting late. Contrary to what Date says, is like this whole thing happened with the cousin and his hair getting messed by the client or whatever. But
so client says like that never happened. Like the hair, the fingers through the hair, the getting uncomfortable. Did cousin say that happened, or is this just Date's perspective?
I think cousin. Yeah, go ahead, Deana. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think it depends when you ask them, right? Because their initial story was a little bit different than what they said in deposition, which was a little bit different than what they said in trial.
And according to what's in the arrest report, they proceed directly to client's house. Now, they both men say in their depositions, no, we didn't go directly to client's house. We went back to Date's house. The three men go back to Date's house after the bar. So that's a little strange, right? Like, you just made cousin uncomfortable with these unwanted touching, and, you're going to end the evening because everything's getting weird, but then you go back to your house instead of taking the client directly to his house.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or leaving him, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, or leaving him. So they go back to the Date's house, and then at some point, cousin says to Date, hey man, would you give me head? So
cousin says to Date? No, cousin says to client?
Client, yeah.
Okay.
Hey man, will you give me some head? Something like, my wife doesn't do that anymore.
Oh. This is according to your client?
Yes.
Okay.
So, client's like, what? Like, you're married. I just met your wife. I just met your daughter. Like, where are you coming from? And, Date overhears this, and so he flips out at this point. Now, they load up in the car. Date is driving. Cousin's in the front seat. Client's in the back seat. And client says while they're driving...
Date is driving?
Date's driving. And
the
Date has
one?
this... Date has the tequila bottle. Date's to take and switch from this tequila bottle on the way home. This never-ending bottle of tequila.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they got their money's worth.
There's some argument that's happening between Date and cousin. Date's upset with cousin. Client says he's just kind of like, what the fuck, just get me home at this point. So he's just in the back seat, not, not engaging. So they pull up to his house, or the park rather, that's across from the client's house. And the client's like reaches up between the two seats, and he's like pointing forward to like, hey man, can you pull up more? My house is up here. He doesn't want to walk half a block or whatever it is to his house. So he's kind of like leaning up, pointing, and out of nowhere, Date takes this tequila bottle and knocks him upside his head. And so client now retreats back into the back seat, and he's like in a fetal position, and he describes it as the Date like turning around and just like starting to wail on him while he's in the back seat. At some point, client pulls out this gun that he has had in a fanny pack that he's had all night. He hasn't carried it into the bar, and he hasn't carried it into cousin's house, but otherwise it's been on him. So he pulls out this gun, and he swings it at the Date, who's still beating his ass in the back seat.
So he uses it to kind of like as a pistol whip type of situation.
Pistol whipped him, caught him on his left eye. So client's right-handed, swings the gun, butt of the gun hits the cousin in his left eye, leaves a pretty good gash. And then at that point, client's able to get out of the car. And so when he gets out on the passenger side of the back seat, the cousin gets out, and the cousin grabs him and puts him in a chokehold. And he still grabs client, puts him in a chokehold. So he's like, he can't breathe. He's, well, I guess he could breathe. So he's saying, let me go, let me go, let me go. But he felt like he was about to, not be able to breathe. And so now Date gets out of the car too, comes around the front of the vehicle. And as soon as he gets to where client is being held in this chokehold, cousin releases him, and Date just jumps on him and starts pounding on him. Client still has the gun in his hand at this point. And so now client's face down on the ground, and Date's on his back. And now Date's apparently trying to grab for the gun. And the gun goes off, and cousin gets hit. Turns out cousin's hit in his right buttock, and then the bullet travels through his thigh and out the base of his penis.
Oof.
And yeah.
Yikes. That hurts my penis. I don't even have one.
So after the gun goes off, the Date gets off client's back, and client just runs away. Right, he runs through the park. He takes sort of a less direct route to his house. He has to jump some fences, and he's running the less direct way because in his mind, he's afraid that these guys are going to like get in their car and follow him and try to run him over or something. So then he gets home, and he basically passes out. Like he's winded, he has asthma, and so he ends up just going to bed. And then next thing he knows, police are knocking at the door. His parents get him up out of bed, and then he's taking a trip downtown.
So he must have had injuries then, too.
He
right?
did, which became part of the trial where we introduced some evidence to support that.
They documented that, or you could see it on the body cam?
Could see it in the interview video.
Yeah. So let's talk about discovery then. So by the time you met client, you had discovery, right? Because it had gone through 3 lawyers.
Correct. So we had...
Yeah, what did you get in discovery?
The body-worn camera, that was primarily useful from the initial officer speaking with the Date at the hospital. And we can get into that. And then we had the interview video. We had detectives' reports. Eventually, they provided us with jail calls, which they were going to try and use to show that client wasn't injured because he got in a fight at the jail, and they wanted to make it sound as though his injuries to his ribs, his ribs were cracked, happened during a fight at the jail.
What do what's your like worst fact in your opinion from the evidence?
I think it's his denial that he was ever with these guys. That he didn't know them. He didn't go out that day. He just was home all day, and you know, this was all, why are you all at my house? Why am I here? Type thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird that he went home and didn't do anything after that.
Like didn't call police or whatever.
Right. Because
I'm
he
sure they
was
focused on
jumped,
that.
right? I mean,
And who did you say called the police?
Nobody called the police. Police would have been called either way because there was a shooting. The hospital would have called the police, but there was an officer that happened to be there when these two guys show up, and he gets taken back to be treated.
Okay. So there's no 911 call. There's no body camera of anything like excited at that point. It's like the body camera turns on in the hospital.
No, there was some excited utterances because the body-worn camera got turned on at the hospital when the officer encounters cousin. Date's taken immediately back, right? So the officer's trying to speak with a cousin, figure out like what happened, where it happened, who did it, all those kinds of things. And the first thing that the cousin tells him is that they just left this bar called In Cahoots, which is a gay bar in the Brooklyn area of Jacksonville. And then later he's like, oh, they left the loft. So the cousin was the date was so drunk, he couldn't even tell the police like where they were at that night.
Yes, I'm sure that's helpful in trial.
That was helpful.
Also, the date was on the phone with the cousin's wife in the emergency room, like waiting area, kind of talking to her about the shooting and telling her that they had been in a fight and they were beating this guy's ass, and all of that was on the officer's body worn.
Were there any, pretrial motions or any, pretrial hearings that stand out?
Well, the state filed a motion in limine to prevent us from talking about how the date had been kicked out of the military for that fight. So that was something that the court held in abeyance, just to see if it would become relevant at some point. Because I guess the date had testified in his deposition that he had not told client about his situation in the military. That's contrary to what client had told us.
Right.
And then we at one point filed a pretrial immunity motion, a stand your ground motion it's called in Florida. And that's different. Sorry, that's different than self-defense. I think that we're all pretty familiar with the stand your ground motion because of that. What was it? George Zimmerman case?
Zimmerman, yeah.
But can you explain that just a little bit, just quickly, how that's different than self-defense?
Deana, you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah. So stand your ground gives you immunity from prosecution. So the court decides stand your ground motions, and if it's granted, then you have immunity from prosecution. Whereas self-defense is more of a trial argument to the jury.
Okay, so stand your ground is not a defense to a crime. It's basically like you were in a position where you didn't have the duty to retreat, and you could use deadly force. Is that what I'm just guessing the law? So that's saying they're saying, well, because you were in that position, there's no crime committed here.
Right.
Wait, so if that's a pretrial issue, but kind of the basics of it are not that different from self-defense, it's just procedurally at a different point, they have to support that with preponderance? Or how do they have to support that?
So it shifts the burden to the state. If you file a legally sufficient motion that makes a prima facie claim of self-defense, it shifts the burden to the state, and then the state has to show at a stand your ground hearing, the state would have to show by clear and convincing evidence that you were not acting in self-defense. And so that would be a decision the judge would make. If that motion is denied, you have the opportunity to file an interlocutory appeal and then have an appellate court rule on whether that motion should have been granted. Assuming it was properly denied, you can still make your self-defense claim to a jury. And they're working with a different standard at that point. It also shifts the burden to the state there, and then the state has to show beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant was not acting in self-defense. So it's a pretty robust um, standard for us and hopeful for the defense. At some point, it was decided that the judge was going to hear the stand your ground during the trial, which really doesn't make a lot of sense because it's an immunity motion, but that's what she was going to do. And at the first day of trial, we were ultimately able to convince the client not to move forward on that. Because, again, since it was going to be heard during the trial anyway, the jury would have had, it'd be easier for a jury to return a not guilty based on self-defense than what a judge could based on the different standards. So he just decided to trust us and let it go.
So now we're getting into trial. How's your client feeling like going into trial?
He's a nervous wreck. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's a nervous wreck.
How are you guys feeling?
I thought we had good stuff to work with. And we actually also, so here in Florida, we do board certification. So you can be board certified in certain areas of the law. And so we had another attorney who needed another felony trial to recertify for board cert. So she was sitting with us as well. And so generally, she and I were having a lot of fun. Troy was very locked in. And he knew this case backwards and forwards. I mean, he had read the victim's medical records. He knew he had timestamps from every body worn. So he knew what he was doing. He had it together.
Were there any plea negotiations?
No, the state had said, that she would entertain like a double-digit offer if he wanted to make one, and he was not willing to sign up for 10 or more years. So, no.
Okay, so you left it there, and it's going to trial, and you know for sure that it's going to be a jury trial?
Yeah, at this point, we're heading to jury selection.
Okay, and the defense at this point isn't necessarily self-defense, it's more accident mixed with self-defense?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. So when I remember going to Deana's office and saying, so client's now saying that it was accidentally discharged, and so are we able to even claim self-defense when it's accidental discharge? And then I found a case on point that said, if you're acting in self-defense, then, accidental discharge could be part and parcel of that. So you would still get a self-defense instruction to the jury. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're confident that if you proffer what you need to proffer through client, you can get the instruction?
Yes.
Okay.
The state raised that issue later, and then I was like, but boom, here's the case. Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of jurors are you looking for going into trial?
I think jurors who were just kind of skeptical.
We had to voir dire on military and voir dire on the gay aspects in the case and that kind of stuff.
And how were the responses from the jurors?
Good. I mean, talking specifically about whether or not you believe gays have the right to serve in the military. I mean, because once you get talking, then you get all kinds of opinions. But we didn't really have, sometimes you get into jury selection and there's a lot of negative and kind of crazy opinions. And then I try to Colorado as much as I can. So you try to then bolster those crazy opinions and sound like you're agreeing with them. But we don't really have that too much in this case.
And when you say Colorado, you mean jury deselect, right?
Yes. Yeah, which our judge is not. The judge of GBOC is not a huge fan of deselection.
Why are you asking them how they feel?
Yeah, that was I think we got called a sidebar.
That's voir dire.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Why you ask them how they feel? Yeah.
So what is? So when people think of Florida, right? I think they typically think of conservative, now MAGA, which I know this is not true for everybody, but what is the general makeup of Jacksonville? Yeah. What's the general demographic there?
I do think it's a little bit more conservative.
Is it diverse?
Yes, but for some reason our jury panels aren't as much.
Okay.
What's your client's race?
He's African American.
Okay. So the jury, is it all white?
Yeah.
Or is it the jury's all white, client's black?
Was your client worried about that at all?
I honestly don't think he was. I think he was just, there's also a level, I think, where you have no idea really what's going on.
It is interesting how our clients respond to jury selection because I've had many times where my clients like, oh, I really like that one.
Yeah.
I'm like, you do?
Right.
You're like, wrong.
You want the police officer?
Yeah, they just said they love police. Like, yeah, she seems nice. She's not, I promise. Did you have any interesting like moments or for cause challenges or peremptory strikes?
I think they did a Batson challenge on us.
Yeah.
On you?
In what context?
They'll even Batson challenge if you're kicking off a white lady.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, really?
It's crazy.
You're like,
Yeah.
everyone's a white lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about opening. So the state opens 1st, right?
Yeah.
They open.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the state's opening.
It was very methodical. They basically, their argument in opening was there was this date. The client gets angry at some point when his date says, like, this is going to be the only date kind of thing. And there's a shovel and he shoots them. It was kind of a short opening. I thought, so there's the judge who presides over GVOC used to be a prosecutor. And so she says a lot, you got to handle your scandal. And I didn't feel like they handled
Handle your what?
Handle your scandal.
Sandal?
Handle your sandal.
Yeah, so like you got to
Scandal.
start with the bad facts, right? You got to handle them. You got to bring them
Oh.
up. And so to
Not
me,
like sandals.
yeah, handle your scandal. Just the difference in what the witnesses I thought were going to testify to and say. I didn't think they addressed in opening.
You didn't think that the state handled their scandal very well,
Right,
is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Or their sandals.
Or their scandal.
Yeah.
So wait,
Okay.
so their theory is that your client got mad when date said this is, we're not going to have a second date, and then like started beating everyone up and shooting people.
Yeah.
So this is basically like a credibility war. Like this is a he said.
For sure.
Okay.
Yep.
That's the state's opening. How about your opening? Who opened?
Darcy opened. And
the person who was getting their board certification hours.
Yeah, Darcy's
that's nice
awesome.
that you let
Shout
them-
out to Darcy.
Yeah, shout out
Yeah.
Darcy. Let's hear about Darcy's opening.
She said, basically there's going to be a few things that won't be in doubt no matter who you believe or don't believe. Like, everyone's drinking, whether they admit it, that there were some arguments, that it was 2-on-1, Mr. Griffin being the one and the smallest of them, that he was beaten and he was terrified, and that he was defending his own life, and that Mr. Holton was shot. Like, those things will not be in dispute. And then, pay attention closely to the evidence and what the witnesses say and inconsistencies and, that sort of thing. But she kind of bullet pointed things that, like, were indisputable and that also supported our theory of defense.
Okay. So she was saying that, it's 2-on-1, there was drinking, someone got shot. That's not in dispute.
Which is a great approach because the theory of defense is kind of locked down, but not necessarily. It sounds like you're going to see how it goes down. So, yeah, anything that just highlights the confusion of the situation is a clean way to go.
Did she say your client was going to testify?
She did. Yeah,
Okay.
She said you're going to hear from him. And at that
Scary.
point, we knew that he was going to have to testify.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she mentioned that. And what else? I think it was kind of a, maybe 5-10 minute opening. It wasn't that long.
I think that's fine. I think you got to like prime them and get out of there so they don't get bored.
Yeah.
Okay, so then who was the state's first witness?
The date.
They put on the date. Yeah. So
Okay, starting strong.
Yeah,
Handling the scandal.
yeah.
In their mind.
So he gets up there and basically tells what he had told the initial detective. I want to say that he didn't mention going back to his house. He definitely didn't mention all the drinking that was going on.
Did he mention going back to his house in the deposition? Were you able to impeach him on that, or did he ever say? Okay.
No, he said that in the deposition. The cousin did as well. And then, the cousin said that he was in the car the whole time. Date was, in his deposition, said that cousin got out of the car at some point. So, we had a lot to work with as far as that goes.
So his direct was just basically what he told his initial statement to police.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And so then on cross, I started asking him about, you thought you were in cahoots, right? You were saying that you were going to beat my client's ass, right? And then he denies that. So then we go, okay, refresh recollection with the body-worn camera. And I think we did that a couple of times. And afterwards, he was just kind of compliant, like, oh, yeah, I said that. Yeah, I said this. I said that.
Does he seem drunk on the body-worn camera?
He seems plastered on the body-worn camera.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Which we didn't actually introduce. We probably could have got it in as an excited utterance or whatnot, but he pretty much admitted to everything that we wanted him to admit to on cross, so it wasn't necessary to get into all that.
Okay. So you guys just like shredded his credibility basically on cross.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I think one of my first questions to him was talking about, so you all were in the car and you were driving and you were talking about your military experience and you made a disclosure to Terrell about your separation from the military, didn't you? And then there's an objection from the state. And so we have to go sidebar pretty much for every objection. And the state's like, we filed a motion in limine on this. We're not supposed to talk about this. And the judge is like, well, he hasn't answered the question yet. And, depending on how he answers, then we'll, know whether it can be brought up or not. And so we go back and say, you told him why you separated from the military, didn't you? Yeah. And you separated from the military because you got into a fight, didn't you? He's like, yeah. And so
Objection.
Yeah. So within like the first 2 minutes, like their motion limit, he was like, out the window.
Right.
Okay, it's interesting that the judge though handled it on the record. Like if it were flipped, I'd be pissed. But great for us.
So I think that was all with the date, and
Okay,
then they put the cousin up next.
Okay.
And the cousin's version of how he got shot was just wild, right? Because he's maintaining that he's just sitting in the car the whole time, that this bullet magically like goes through the car door and through the car seat, and he still thinks that
he was saying that he was sitting in the car and client was outside of the car.
Scuffling with the date. The
through
date and the client
butt?
who gotten into it got out of the car, and while they're scuffling, he gets shot in the
Wouldn't he have to have shot from like below the car?
right.
or got shot. Yeah, I mean, maybe if you're sitting
Yeah.
in the back seat and you shoot into somebody.
But you'd still have to be like
Yeah.
up through. Anyway, I'm
Well,
not a physicist,
other thing
but-
is, our cousin thinks that the bullet went into his penis, which the medical records show that the bullet went into his buttock and then out through the penis. So he never knew like what the trajectory was.
Oh, I guess that makes more sense then. If he he just was lying.
Yeah, and I had to ask cousin too. Although I knew he would deny it, I kind of wanted to lay the foundation. So I asked cousin, like, you propositioned my client to like give you some head, didn't you? Of course he denies that, but at that point now the jury's like, oh, okay, what's this is a preview.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they perked up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's about to get juicy.
They got
Sorry,
really
go ahead.
angry about it because then on redirect, they made this big deal about how like that was the first time that the cousin had ever learned that his cousin was a homosexual. You remember that? Like it was this whole thing about like,
Oh yeah.
he had no idea that our client and his cousin were even on a date until later. Like he didn't, it was. It got
Did they go to like
really
a gay bar, or was it a regular, or was it just like a not a gay
It
bar?
was it was a regular bar that they went to, but Date was saying that they'd left this gay bar when he first encountered police. There was another thing so there was a lot of medical records, and buried within the medical records was that the cousin was being treated for HIV. And so that little nugget was something that would maybe tend to support my client's contention that Date might have swung both ways, but I wasn't going to make, I didn't know how to bring that up. The medical records had been admitted into evidence just by stipulation. So
Yeah.
I was going to, and I didn't want to, I didn't even bring it up in closing, but I did we can talk about that later. But like, I didn't want to ask him about the HIV thing on the stand. It just felt kind of icky, but I knew that I was going to be able to kind of allude to it later. So
When you say it felt icky, do you mean just from an ethical or personal standpoint, it felt like foul play to play that angle or play that to some degree stereotype, or that it just seemed like irrelevant?
yeah, the stereotype, like arguing that stereotype felt icky. So, and I knew that it was something that was going to come out during my close since that evidence had been admitted already. So I just kind of left it there. But yeah, I didn't want to make an argument like, oh, he must be, down low because he has HIV. Like I didn't want to make that argument.
Okay, so was that all for Cousin's testimony?
I think so.
Okay, how many witnesses did they put on?
I think they probably put on like 12 witnesses, and
Cool.
I think that almost all of them was to establish ID. Like they weren't even. It was all about like client was there, client was with them. Like it was. Even though we'd filed a stand your ground motion, so they had to be on notice of a self-defense claim.
Right.
All their witnesses seemed to be focused on that client was with them that night.
Do we need to go through all 12 witnesses?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then who did they put on next?
So I think the initial responding officer was important. He was at the emergency room when they got there. And so they put him on, and through that witness, we were able to establish, thanks to Troy's incredible time stamping of his body worn, just how intoxicated the cousin and the date were, what the date was screaming on the cell phone about, beating up our client.
Wonderful.
That's also, I think we started with him, maybe kind of what he saw in the car or didn't see in the car. But I think he was helpful to just kind of highlight how intoxicated they were.
Okay.
So you got in the statements about them kicking client's ass through the officer?
Yeah.
Like he'd said, like, my cousin started instantly choking him. He said, I'm about to fuck this N-word up. He was choking him and I was punching him. And then the date was upset because he wasn't getting good shots, and he's like, I want to fight this guy. And
was he bragging to this person?
These were all things that he was saying on the phone while he was sitting in the hospital. Yeah.
Wow.
And so
That's great evidence.
I think we got it in through him, and then we also got it in through the officer. So it was kind of duplicative, but
great. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell him
hear it
again.
again. Yeah, tell him again. Exactly.
Tell him again. Okay, so that was like the function of that officer's testimony for your case.
Yeah, we also got out through him, like, the date while he was at the hospital. He was there for quite a while, and he was wanting to go home, but they kept making him wait for the detectives to show up. But during this period of time, like, he's kind of walking all over the place. At one point, he tried to go back into the car that had already been taped off with police tape. And we were getting through that officer that he was, had access to the car at one point because there was no tequila bottle found in the car. So we wanted to kind of, insinuate or argue that he had gotten rid of the tequila bottle either while the car was still at the hospital or, somewhere along the way. But because we felt like that would be something that the jury would be wondering is, where's this tequila bottle that client was battered with?
Right, that you're about to say. Exactly. Okay. Was there anybody else that was...
the main detective.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about
Yeah, Deana eviscerated him.
All right, Deana.
Okay,
Let's hear it.
Let's hear it.
It was awesome.
Let's go.
I think, just pointing out that, well, really there was no investigation, right? They took whatever the guy said in the emergency room and rolled with it.
You made a really good ending point with the medical records and how he'd never reviewed those because those contradicted what the cousin had been saying as to where he was shot and all that kind of stuff. I think your last question was, well, that would have been helpful to look at if you're trying to establish how this shooting happened, right? And I think he had to agree with that.
Savage.
And I do.
All right, good work.
Sometimes it works really well. You can just keep, you can kind of see them go like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they get a little argumentative. He did not get argued. He was just kind of like, yes, like, just get me off the stand.
That's very satisfying when that happens. It really is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. And it's like having someone on the stand is kind of, I like our job for that reason because we kind of provide accountability through random audits.
Right.
Like when you're an officer filing a charge, you have no idea if you're going to have to at any point testify to anything related to that. And statistically, you're not.
Right.
But every once in a while, you are. And you're up there just like, yeah. So
that's
good
very
work.
painful for everybody but us.
Right.
Okay, so you shredded his credibility. Who else testified for the state?
They had
the main people.
Yeah, they had the FBI agent come in, and they had done like
FBI?
geolocation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you got some.
So it sounds better, right? If you're like,
right.
Yeah. So all to establish that he was with these guys, right?
Yeah.
It's like we already said that he was with them in our opening. So
right.
why are we spending all this
FBI's
time
like,
on that?
you brought us in to establish ID?
Don't really adapt. Like once they lay out their witnesses in their head, and that's
right. Yeah, they've already prepped it all, so they're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Was there anyone else that moved the case along? As far as you guys were concerned, or was that pretty much it?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was it.
So as far as your worst facts that you were scared of, being client's denial outright that he was ever there, the fact that client went home, the fact that like he wasn't on scene for any of the aftermath, did those facts come out?
The state asked their witnesses about, client's appearance, when he was arrested, and then of course his denials and his interview. I think that was it. They've definitely brought those bad facts out through their witnesses.
All right, and then you guys put on a case.
How's the client feeling at this point?
He said bundle of nerves. I mean, we kept going through his direct like over and over and over again. I think that on our break right before he testified, we went through it again. And, he mostly was able to stay on script.
So halftime client's still extremely nervous. It's your guys' turn. Your plan is put on client, and that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Put on client, yep. And we go through his testimony, and it's exactly as I explained before from our first meeting when he told me the whole story. And we also had planned to do a demonstration for the jury about how all of this went down in the car. So we got some chairs and put them in the well. And then I acted as though I was the date sitting in the front driver's seat, client sitting in the back rear passenger seat. And we acted out for them exactly, how this altercation occurred. And the funny part was after client's hit with the tequila bottle, right, he gets out of the car, and then, as I mentioned, the cousin gets out of the car and puts him in a chokehold. And so I say, demonstrate for the jury how he put you in a chokehold. And he grabbed me and put me in a chokehold, and I went, and I was like, yeah, that's it,
that's pretty good though, because it shows how violent it is.
The jury just started busting out laughing. Everybody was laughing, and I was like, okay, this is gold right here. We had also planned to act out the part where the client's on the ground and then date gets on his back, and I was going to be the client with the date on top of me, and I was like, okay, I don't. Change the plan.
Maybe that's
I
a
don't
bridge
feel
too far.
Yeah, I don't feel like getting on the ground and having him, especially after he just put me in this chokehold. So.
Honestly, though, that's I think a lot of people listen to the show for, interesting and unique practice tips. And I think that's one of them is, you can use the well, you can act stuff out, you don't have to just describe stuff. I'm inspired by that, approach.
It was very effective.
Yeah.
It's so creative, and it's so humanizing. Here's someone charged with attempted murder, and he's there with his attorney. Attorney's completely comfortable with this man having his hands around his neck.
Yes.
And it's a joke. In that moment, everyone's laughing. So it's just so humanizing.
My worst fear in court is passing out during in front of the judge or in front of a jury. and like soiling myself. So I don't know if like I would feel comfortable doing that, because I think about that a lot. Like waking up, like, did I shit? And then I'm like, yeah. You did. So, but good for you. Good for you, Troy. So it went as expected on direct then, and even better than expected.
Yeah, we had to come up with a reason why he denied knowing these guys. So I think we talked about the talk, that black boys get when they are growing up from their parents, and like you don't cooperate with the police and stuff like that. And then I had him walk through like the emotions and the experience of actually being in that interview room, and how it was cold and everything's metal, and the smells that he smelled, and like really trying to just like bring it to life, like what it was like sitting there, as to explain why he would potentially not be truthful about what had happened.
Okay, yeah, that's also great stuff to bring up, the talk and the emotions and the sensations of being interrogated, because I think a lot of people think that they would act normal when faced with this, but I think that's not true.
Yeah,
most people are scared.
They had him in that interrogation room for hours before they even came to speak with him. So at some point, like, he's asleep, and I think the state was trying to paint it as like this is not how somebody would act when they've been in this situation, especially if it's self-defense. Like, everybody would act a certain way, and we were just really trying to explain to a jury, like, not everybody's going to act the same way. Not everybody's going to, just be totally forthcoming with what happened. And
so that basically like your direct then?
Yeah, that was my direct. And then...
Yeah, let's talk about the cross. Were you nervous about the cross?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
I was totally nervous. I thought, they didn't really land a lot of punches, I don't think, on the cross. It was one of those incredulous crosses where it's just like, oh, you did this. Oh, you did that.
Incredulous cross.
Really, yeah,
that's cool.
Being,
like, why would you lie? Why? Who lies? Like, stuff like that?
Yeah. I was like, and you want this jury to believe this. And it's like, yeah, I do, because that's what happened, right? Like, he held up pretty good.
Okay. Good. And yeah, every punch they could have landed, you guys already had addressed pretty much. Like, you knew it was coming out, and
there was one thing that we're not going to talk about in the direct, where when he was running through the park jumping fences, he dropped the gun, and so we were just going to like ignore the gun altogether, and that was our plan. And he mentioned that he dropped the gun when he was running through the park. And I didn't
in front of the jury?
Yeah, I didn't like that, because we're wanting the jury to think that he's a responsible gun owner and acting in a reasonable manner. Yeah. But he drops the gun, and then he never tells police that, hey, I dropped a gun in the middle of a park where kids play and stuff like that. So we were just going to, they don't bring it up, we're not going to bring it up. Yeah. Well, he brought it up and said he dropped the gun, but they never went back and asked him about that. So I thought they kind of dropped the ball there.
Right.
They could have.
Yeah, they could have gone.
Dropped the gun.
Yeah, they dropped the gun. They weren't handling the scandal.
They were not handling it. You beat me to it.
Handled.
Okay, so then you leave the cross feeling pretty good then.
Yeah, felt pretty good. So client had testified, that he went to the hospital, or he went to go get medical care after he got out of jail. And so the state opened a rebuttal. We closed, we rested after our client. But yeah, the state brought in a rebuttal witness, the custodian of records for the jail, because they wanted to introduce jail calls where he was talking with somebody and he was saying, like, yeah, my ribs are real fucked up. And then I done got into a fight, like the first day I was there. And they were trying to make it sound like he was saying that he got his ribs fucked up in this fight, like he wasn't at the jail, like he wasn't injured. But it was like totally not the way he said it on the phone. So
yeah, it doesn't sound like that at all.
No, they were just trying to make it sound the way they wanted it to sound, right, not what he had actually said. So they opened the case up to do that, and then
also he wanted to put in the interrogation video.
Yeah, so that's right. They brought in the interrogation video. They had taken out the part where he invoked, and then they picked up like after that. And mostly it's just him sitting there. And like Deana said, they're trying to show that he wasn't injured. He's moving around, blah, blah, blah. And at one point, I don't know why he did this, but at one point, like he flips a chair over and it's got chrome legs. So he's like looking at his reflection in the chrome chair leg, and he's like constantly picking out his chin hairs. And I thought they were going to bring that up to like show that he's trying to like change his identity or something. I don't know. Like he was steady, like pulling out his chin hairs. And then for no reason other than just to be a snot, they play this part of the video where he lets out this long ass fart, and it was just like,
oh my
yeah,
God.
Just to embarrass him.
Yeah,
he was so fucking mortified.
Nature called. Come on, stay.
Nature calls. You think you're alone, but surveillance doesn't rest.
No.
Yo, it's so bad for the state. It's like you are relying on a fart to prove an attempted murder.
Right.
like your case is ass.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
It was totally unnecessary.
I don't think jurors like that. I mean, like,
no,
they're just like regular people, right? Like they don't want to hear that. They don't want to see that.
It was cringe.
So then they close. Did you like cross on any of that?
I don't know. I don't think so. We just argued, in closing that his statements on the jail call weren't what they were trying to make them out to be.
Well, let's talk about close. So does the state close first?
Yeah.
State closes first.
Okay. So what's their initial close like?
I was underwhelmed with it.
The first close is always the PowerPoint, and these are the
technical stuff.
Yeah, this is why it's not a lesser. You heard from this person. Like the first close is always a little bit more formal.
I don't think they made any strong points to contradict the self-defense claim in the first close.
Okay. Unmoved by the state's closing, the first one.
Unmoved.
And then, Troy, you closed, right?
I closed. I actually did a PowerPoint. And I just... I just started out by saying, client got up here, he told you his truth, he told you what happened. Date, he has no fucking idea what happened. He thinks that he left this gay bar, and then started going through like with his testimony, the Date's testimony about, how this contradicts what the cousin said, how basically just hammering on how intoxicated he was. And then moved on to cousin. So I kind of did it chronologically, which I know is not always the best way to do it, but I felt like in this case it made sense to kind of take it chronologically. So it's kind of telling the story from client's perspective, and then Date's perspective, and then cousin's perspective. When I was talking about cousin, that's when I brought in the medical records, and I never argued that his HIV status, was indicative that he was bisexual or anything like that. I just didn't feel comfortable with that. But within the records, I had taken a page and put it on the slide, and it was actually a slide from anesthesiologist notes where it talked about how the patient was acute ETOH intoxication, and then broke that down like he had alcohol poisoning
from that same night.
Yeah, from that night.
Wow.
So he had alcohol poisoning, and that he was arousable and following commands, but he was non-consentable, and then broke that down for the jury. Like, this guy's so drunk, he can't even provide consent for surgery, right? Yeah. So, like, we can't believe his version of what happened.
And I think
and then on that,
the state attorneys go, when they realize that Troy actually read, because you get medical records and it's hundreds of pages.
Yeah.
PowerPoint. He's like, you have it. Go back and read it right here where it says he was wasted.
Yeah, and on that same page is where it said history of HIV, and then talked about the medications he was on. So I didn't bring it up, but it was just on the PowerPoint, just like right there for them to see, and I left it there for quite a while. And invited them to go review that page, and then made some comment like, I think cousin's got a little secret he's trying to keep from us. So that's kind of the way I handled that.
Okay.
And then pulled up the page where it talked about the trajectory of the bullet going into the buttocks and out through the penis, and so how that obviously, Cousin's version of events could not be true at all. And then hit on how there was a bullet in the back seat. So that bullet had to have come out when client pulled out the gun. They were both saying they never saw a gun until he got out of the car and this fight happened. He pulls out the gun. And that bullet being in the back seat was like physical evidence that corroborated the client's story that he pulled the gun out and used it in self-defense to, hit the date. Talked about how the injury to the date's eye was like a line, it looked like a butt of a gun. It didn't look like somebody getting punched. So, just invited them to use their common sense, as the state likes to always say, that
right.
This, this couldn't have gone down as either one of these two witnesses testified to. And so when you take everybody's story and you look at the physical evidence, it corroborates that, that our client was telling the truth and that he was being attacked and, that, this was self-defense.
Perfect.
And then let's talk about the state's rebuttal, and then I want to talk about how you felt about your clothes.
So I enjoyed the second close because I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. She got up and started yelling, right? And she just starts about how now the shooting was because client had been on the date and he saw where this guy lived, and our client was living at home with his parents, and so he was jealous of the apartment, and then he was jealous because the date had a car. It just spiraled. Like, she lost it at some point. It really spiraled into now.
Okay, so nothing great in the rebuttal.
No.
Troy, how did you feel about your clothes?
God, after it was done, I sat down and I realized that I'd never even argued the lessers. So there, it could have been aggravated battery or attempted manslaughter. And I had a full PowerPoint slide on it. So it's kind of hard to explain those differences to a jury about like what elements, are missing from, the lessers. And I, for some reason, just completely blanked on it. And then when I sat down, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I didn't argue the lessers. And so after the jury went to retire, we went to the lounge, and I was just like, oh, my God. Like, this seems like malpractice that I didn't even argue that. And then Darcy is so sweet. She's like, no, in this kind of case, I don't know that you even really want to argue lessers, because we're like saying, that this was self-defense. So why then give them the opportunity to find them guilty of something lesser if they're, so it ended up working out, but yeah.
But I do agree with Darcy that although it's scary, I think in a case like this, you're saying that it's a justified crime. So it has to be not guilty. So after close, you're kind of bummed. How's your client doing?
I don't really know how he was doing. I know when he came back after we got the bell and there was a verdict, he came back and he was just like, if he could look white like a ghost, he'd look white as a ghost.
I mean, I can't. That moment is nerve-wracking for us. I can't imagine how it is for the clients.
I can't imagine. How long were they out?
They were out for 3, almost 4 hours, I think. And as time was going by, I was thinking, oh, this is bad, because to me, this is pretty clear that it was self-defense. And if they don't see it that quickly, then, they're trying to figure out what charge to put on them instead of not guilty. Now, Darcy, again, is like, no, I think this is good. The longer they're out, it's probably better for us. So who knows? It's hard to read those tea leaves. But...
It's impossible, actually, I think.
Yeah.
Literally.
Okay, so you get the bell.
We get the bell.
And so then what, does your heart immediately drop? What's going on with you when you get the bell?
Yeah, I'm trying to be cool, walking in, trying to look like we got this for the client. And I remember the court reporter looks over at me and she said, how many not guilties have you gotten? And I was like, well, not very many, maybe 2 or 3. And she's like, well, you're about to get another. And I was like, oh, okay.
What, did she know, or she just said that? Because she just knew. She knew from the way that everything had come out that this was a
defense verdict, I guess.
Okay,
But,
that's cool. So she's trying to boost your confidence a little bit. So you're
Yeah.
there with the client, the jury walks in. Are you trying to see like if they're looking at you or look
Oh,
at their
yeah.
faces? Okay, what did they look
What do you
like?
see?
They weren't looking at us.
Oh,
And I was
no.
like,
They were looking almost like down. And I don't ever know if that's
Oh.
true or not, right? But you're always like, wait, are they looking
Yeah.
at us? But I think they were just trying to avoid the state attorneys. That's my
Yeah, I think they're also
Okay.
trying to be professional. You know, they don't want to be like,
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no winking or anything like that.
okay.
no.
Yeah.
So then tell us the process of reading the verdict. I know it's different in every jurisdiction. So tell us walk us through the moment.
Yeah, so the judge says, I understand you reached a verdict. The person passes the verdict forms up to the judge. She reviews them just to make sure that they haven't missed anything and that, there's no exceptions or whatever. Then they hand it to the clerk to publish. And when she said not guilty, I just looked over at client and he started bawling. And then I was trying to choke back tears, and then got the second not guilty. And it was just like,
Which
oh my
charge did
God.
they read first? The attempted murder?
The attempted murder with the 25-year man was first, I believe.
So you kept getting the not guilties. Walk us through all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not guilty, and then count 2, not guilty, and he's done. He's able to walk
He
out the
was
door.
celebrating. He was hugging.
Yeah, we were like, oh, I think Darcy said, we need to take this outside because the judge was looking displeased with the jubilations.
At that point, who cares? I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah, like take
exactly.
30 days contempt. It's fine.
right?
Credit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I
So-
cannot even imagine the relief that he felt.
Oh, yeah.
No.
And me,
And you
me
guys.
too. I was
Yeah.
just, I've never had that much pressure on me in my entire life. I felt like I was floating after that.
I bet.
It's
Yeah.
an unimaginable. Well, we can imagine it because we do it, but just that quantity of pressure and when an outcome happens
Mhm.
like that quickly, Like
Yeah.
it all comes down to that moment where someone's just reading a piece of paper. And there's
Yeah, it
plenty
is weird.
of things about our job that are not like the movies, but that absolutely is. Like it is that dramatic. It is that stressful. And it's real. You're like, are you kidding me?
So after that, we went out into the to get some photographs, and his boyfriend was there. His boyfriend was just could not stop crying.
I bet.
And then what clients say at the end to you, Deana?
It's about how he wasn't going to get on dating apps.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, boyfriend's standing right here, so probably a good idea. For a while.
For a
Funny too. I'm gonna give it a short break. Okay, so have you kept up with client? Do you know how he's doing now?
Yeah, he's doing well. I talked to him last week to tell him about the show and make sure he's cool with everything being shared. Yeah, he's doing well. He's working. And he says he's doing good. So he's stayed out of trouble.
What a harrowing blip in someone's life, to like have no criminal record, go on a date, have this like horrible trial where you beat the charges and then just move on with your life and, live normally again. Like, what a crazy experience to have. Like, I
That
can't.
is so well said. A harrowing blip. Like
Yeah, like, remember that time that I was charged with attempted murder and I got acquitted? That's crazy. Anyway.
truth and a lie.
Want to go to In Cahoots? All right.
phenomenal
Well,
job.
yeah, well done. Well done. I learned a lot. I think next time I'm going to try to do some type of, live reenactment or something in one of my trials.
Yeah, reenact the full attempted murder.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this is the part of our show where we ask our guests what we call the ultimate question. Why did you want to become a public defender? Troy, we'll start with you.
So after law school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to work and do like civil rights work, and I couldn't find anybody to hire me to do that. So I started my own firm and did that for about 10 years. And then Adam and I got married, and he was working at the PD's office, and I would hear about how much fun it was and the camaraderie. And I just kind of felt like I wasn't really doing anything to help people. I was fighting over property and time sharing and kids and stuff like that. And then COVID hit, and then I just felt like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. So just wanted to use my privilege for helping people. And so that's what I get to do, and stick it to the man, or at least try to.
Stick it to the man.
It's definitely a calling, for sure.
Yeah.
No matter when you find it, it's very satisfying.
Absolutely.
Deana?
I went to law school with a lot of several people who became public defenders in Jacksonville. And they seemed to be having a lot more fun than I was at work. And I liked being in a courtroom. So it was really the idea of trial for me, why I came over. And I just very quickly realized that the criminal justice system will absolutely run you over if you don't have somebody who's willing to stand beside you and make sure that it doesn't. And that's why I'm still here. So, yeah.
That's right.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. And public defenders are fun. That's a common theme.
We are fun.
Where someone was doing something like some other type of law, and they kind of like look over into like that office building, and they're like having a party every day. Like, what are they doing over there?
It's like, it's hard and it's gritty, and I like that about it. And I could not imagine doing anything else.
Well, great job, guys. You crushed it. And yeah, just an honor to talk to 2 more PDs, 3, including Darcy, who's not here, but who, just laid it all out to protect a client in another neck of the woods, in another state in our country. So just great job, and all the best to you. And when you get another NG, let us know.
Yeah. Thank you
All
for
right.
sharing. It was great talking to you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Another Not Guilty. Shout out to Daniel Mark, original A&G theme music composer, and Mike Grimm for the remix. And guess what? We'll be back in 2 weeks with another Not Guilty straight from the trenches.